How are we out there? Do we have anybody in here? Oh, we got Miriam. Hi, Miriam. How are you, hon? So today with me is my special guest, Terri Rose, although it says Terri Baker Rose, but she prefers to go by Terri Rose. Um, she has a site named Blissfully Your Life, or Blissify Your Life. I'm sorry. Um, She empowers you to find your yes and say no more to fear, fear less, and trust all as well. She pretty much is a love and life coach and a thriver from divorce. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today, and we also are going to talk about empty nest syndrome. I'm gonna pretty much let her talk about her business because she knows best about her own struggles and her own business and why she does this. And I do have her like her website and everything, and then I do believe there's a Facebook page. We'll get into that too a little later, but yeah, and through her own unique experience, Terri approaches everyone she meets with extraordinary compassion and brings deep listening with an open, welcoming heart to each client. So without further ado, go ahead and take it away, Terri.
Good afternoon, Miriam. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And I want to thank you also, Barb, for having me. It's such a tremendous opportunity to share my story and to hear some of your stories. And we learn and grow each other and support one another together. So thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. So let's see. We just have Miriam, and that's kind of what we got so far, but I'm sure they'll be coming and we'll stop and take questions and all that. So let's see. What would you like to talk about first? About emerging free and as a dependent single mother of two? Do you want to start there, or in the beginning, you let me know?
Sure. You know, first I want to say what I really appreciate is age is not a factor. And I believe that, you know, my story is a testimony of that. I'll be 53 here coming up in November. And I've always dreamt and always known in my heart that I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I came into this world that way. However, I've been in my different life circumstances where I haven't really had the freedom to really bring that fully to life. I was a stay-at-home mom for 11 years of my 13-year marriage. And my devotion and commitment and dream was always to be a wife and a mother. So thankfully, by the blessing of his dedicated hard work as a father and a provider, was able to provide for our family that opportunity for me to stay home and raise our kids for those 11 years, while he was able to really focus and grow his professional career as well for the family. So during that time I stayed home, I was very, very active in my kids' school. And when my youngest, I have two children, a son who is currently now in the Navy, graduated from high school last year, and he's been gone a year. And I have a daughter who is soon entering her senior year of high school in 2 days, or actually tomorrow, and will be off to college next year. So I have half my nest empty. But during that time when she got a little older, I did do a home party business and really realized that that entrepreneurial ship really does exist inside of me. I was very successful at that in earning trips and being able to travel. So that really validated, again, what I already knew about myself. And then I got active in their school, from their K through 12 school, or K through 8 school. And I was the president of the board chair. I was the business manager of the school. I was the president of the parent circle and foundation that raised funds and did all that kind of stuff. So there was, again, that rising to the surface entrepreneurial volunteer thing that just lives naturally inside of me. So now I always say it's about timing and alignment. Hello, Cheryl. That's my cousin. Hello. So now the time, I always say it's about timing and alignment, and timing and alignment is so key in everything that we do in our lives. And so now it's just the right time and at the right place in my life with my kids older and not needing so much from me in their own independent lives that they're developing, that I'm free to now discover with my empty nest that entrepreneurial gal inside of me. So Blissify Your Life has been birthed.
That's awesome. And so what you do is you help other women transform into their greatness. You help them, you support and guide them into empowering after all this, you know, whatever it is that they're going through. You help them transition into a, you know, a fearful and or less fearful, and to a well-rounded, where be happy where they are at.
Well, here's what I say. You know, going through the process of divorce and empty nesting, each of one of those life transitions is an opportunity to emerge. And so what I like to equate that to is like a butterfly. I said that I'm transforming, I'm into the cocoon, I'm metamorphosing, and I'm going to emerge this radiant, beautiful butterfly that's going to spread my colors into the world. And I also think of it similarly, much like the lotus flower. You know, the lotus flower starts down in the muck, in the dirt, in the water, which is one of my elements. I love water. It's very peaceful and grounding. And it grows to the light, and it wants to get to the light. And as it rises above and works its way through all the tough challenges and the curveballs of life that are thrown your way, you emerged into a surface of this beautiful flower with this radiant light that can be seen and others to experience the beauty and radiance of you. So that's what I believe this process is. It doesn't have to be a death sentence. It's a new beginning. And when one door closes, another opportunity comes. When one ending comes, a new beginning opens. But it's all about our mindset and how we believe about ourselves internally. That's going to define whether you're going to emerge a butterfly or you're going to stay in the cocoon and it's going to dry up and die. And I did watch that happen to my mom. She lost the love of her life, and she never really bounced back from that experience and went on to thrive with her life. And I have the characteristics of a woman that's not built to break. So I choose that everything happens for a reason, and it's growing me to be my best self. And so in that process, I'm constantly growing and expanding and developing. And through that experience, I'm thriving. I don't choose to live surviving. So that is my passion, is to inspire people, and not only women, because I do have men that come to me for help too, to just see the good in themselves and see it as an opportunity for great, tremendous personal growth. And thank the painful experiences that happen, because they grow you into who you are today. And if you trust that you're right where you're supposed to be, then none of them are mistakes. None of them are failures. They're all purposeful. And that's what I want to empower people to really believe and see in themselves.
And that is very much needed, and because that's how I found myself here. Although I do have another business that I do too. It's just kind of slow right now. But that's how I started myself here at Age is Not a Factor, because I felt there was a need for this. I do know that a lot of women, when they start hitting their 50s, the children are gone. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of divorce happen at that stages of life.
We're actually going to have an epidemic. That's what I'm truly seeing. I hold a meetup group once a month. Mm-hmm. It's called Finding Your Empowered Self Through the Process of Divorce. And it's sad and it breaks my heart how many people I'm seeing coming into my group that are getting, their marriages are ending after 30 years and 26 years. And these women, particularly those are the ones I've seen recently. It's not gender bias. It's just what I'm speaking to with facts. What I've seen is they're in apartments and now they don't have health insurance and they're alone and they're isolated. and hurting, and this isolation just takes them to the what I call the dark abyss if they don't get out and socialize. But through this process, they lose friendships, they lose families, they're losing in-laws, they're losing a lot of connections. And so that's where I come in to help support them so that they don't stay down in that dark place that then will take you down the downward spiral of depression that can be hard to get out of and sometimes deadly. So, and I'm seeing this, and I'm also seeing it happening with men too, and they're coming out of 30-year marriages and starting over. And so this population of people, you know, as they age, we're going to have a real, I think, national social problem.
And I can see that. I think, and you can correct me if I'm not thinking right about this, but I think a lot of times, especially for women, we spend so much time taking care of everybody, and then some say, okay, I'm done. I'm done because I want to do my life now. You know, I don't want to keep cooking dinner and all these things. Or they find out who they really are. Or you and your partner grow apart after the kids are gone. So is it a combination of those things, or is it just one thing?
No, it's not one thing, but typically what I will share I'm seeing is the women are being left. Particularly whether it's men that, or the relationship they stayed in until the kids got old enough, and they're now, the empty nest is empty, and so they're parting and thinking with the best of intention that that was the right thing to do, staying together for the sake of the kids, or they are being left for what we often hear for the younger woman, or the woman who does typically leave is because she had been in either an abusive relationship or alcoholic addiction or something like that, and finally has gotten strong enough now that the kids are older to look in the mirror and wonder who she is, and finally find that self-worth and love in herself enough to say, I'd rather take that bold step beyond the fear and be out there and have freedom than to continue to stay in this prison. So they're getting courage as they're aging to find dysfunctional relationships.
Yes.
So that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Well, and that's a rough road. What do you think about women who, like myself, have an empty nest and then they don't know what's next? And I've said this repeatedly on the show because it is about age is not a factor. And for 5 years, I was first I was sad, then I don't know what to do. I've been out of the loop for so long. I got depressed. I had some other things going on. So what is your take on that? You said that you were with your children, and I did that too, although I did work part-time, but my children were my main focus. So what is that? Do you help with that too, that transition between being the wife, mother, caregiver, all that stuff that comes along? What is your go-to on that? What do you help with people who are going through this right now?
I absolutely do help them. And the beautiful experience that I get to be a part of is it's time of self-discovery, because they lose themselves in the roles that they take on as wife and mother, and caregiver, caretaker, all the different roles that we do as women. And so when they finally have that time where they emerge out of a dysfunctional marriage or whatever, and they're sitting in that isolation, they are sitting with fear. They're sitting with the fear of loneliness. They're sitting with the fear of, am I ever going to find love again? Is somebody else ever going to want me again? And so really all the roots of those kinds of questions that we ask ourselves, they root and they start, like I think of that lotus flower root of, who are you? You know, and finding that self-love within yourself and that self-worth and that self-confidence to know, and like I say, trust and all is well, that this experience is an opportunity for you. It's not It's not a death sentence. It's an opportunity to really get back in touch with who you were. And so I take them back to the place of, for those particularly, there are a lot of women that did come straight out of high school into marriages and into homes and are just on their own for the very first time. But I take them back to a time of when they felt independent and alive and full of vitality and in their individuality as an individual. Like for myself, what I remind myself is I was a gal who had a job with HP at Silicon Valley. And after working there a year, I decided to quit, jump in my truck, travel across the country by myself and camp out. And so whenever I need to get in touch with that feeling, I remind myself of that girl and that young woman who lives inside of it. It's still there. So when I take them back to that place and they get into the feeling of what it felt, you can see an instant shift, because feelings is what reminds us and lives within us. And when they get in touch with the feeling, then they are able to see, oh yeah, I want to feel that way again. And then it gives the hope that then steps them out of the fear into the excitement of the opportunity to discover again. And you have a blank canvas. You get to color and paint and write now whatever you want. And do those things you didn't do that you always wanted to do. So if you always wanted to go back to college, go to college. If you always wanted to go jump out of a plane and you were too afraid because you didn't want to die for your kids, but now they're saying, go, Mom, go. And they might even go with you. Go be that thing that jumps out of the plane. You know what I mean? And that's the time that we have in our lives when this nest empties. And here's the coolest thing. I went and took a trip to Bali in January.
Oh, wow.
By myself. And my kids walked me out to my car when I was driving to go get a ride to get into the airport. Mm-hmm. And they both hugged me. And my son said to me, I'm so glad that you're doing this for yourself, Mom. And that was so huge, because one of the things that we forget is that by our choices and actions of loving ourselves and stepping into ourselves and becoming who we are as women, not just the role of mother, they see another side. And just as importantly as seeing us as mom, it's important for them to also see us as woman, because that helps them to learn how to be really good supportive partners and partners when they're in adult relationships.
Exactly. I'll never forget the day. I think, I don't know, we were looking through old pictures and I had my youngest son. I was laying on the couch and I had my youngest son, like sitting on me, and I was young, and he saw the picture and he says, "Who's that lady?"
Exactly.
I was like, "Your mother." Oh, okay. That just killed me. So yeah, it's so weird, because I had just been thinking about this probably for the last couple of months, about being in my 20s, being 19, being 18, going to California, where I'm originally from, hanging out there for a year or two, coming back home. I had an apartment with two other girls. I worked. I was out there on my own. I had fun, so.
And I get you in touch with remembering that gal, because she's still there.
She's still in there.
Still in there. It's learning how to give yourself permission to get back in touch with that.
Right.
Permission is a big one, and self-care, and loving yourself enough to believe that you're worth it. Because again, that's why I always say stepping into your yes and embracing your empowered self. It doesn't make you selfish. It actually, it makes you whole. Because when you do that and embrace who you are, the energy you're giving off to the others around you that are loving you and you're loving, they grow by seeing you making yourself a priority and loving yourself and having fun. We don't have enough fun in this life. We're not laughing enough. So getting back in touch with that person brings that back to the surface, and it changes the relationship you have with your kids as well, because they're getting to see you in a different way that they also need to see. So It's okay to stay stuck in the emotion for a while of the loss and the grief, because that's normal and that's part of the process of empty nesting. But my job is to work with you to make sure you don't stay there, and see that it's an opportunity for you to be that radiant, colorful butterfly that you choose to be in the world, and go create that for yourself.
And that's awesome to hear right now for women who are feeling this way right now, because I went through that for a good 5 years. I wasn't doing the things that I love, like the crafting and doing my videos on crafting. I started like creating art on Photoshop, doing crazy stuff like that. And then I just disappeared. I disappeared. I would come on, and be on Facebook or whatever, but I wasn't really doing anything. Most days I didn't feel like doing anything. I was depressed.
5 years is a long time.
Yeah.
How did you come out of it?
The need for an income, because my last job, I was unable to. Oh, wow. Somebody's got a really long message here. I'm
not able to see the messages.
I was unable to do the job physically that I was doing. Mm-hmm. So I stopped working, and then I decided that I need another income. So my very first really into the trenches direct sales company, which I've never done, not in this line. So I started doing that, and I started getting used to the camera, and because of what I have to sell, I have to physically be in front of the camera. So that took some time. But then again, I thought of this, because age is not a factor, like I've said before, and everybody's heard me. It's not that it's not that I don't like, or I just feel like the younger work at home moms, and that's where I used to be. And I just think that I don't fit into that category anymore. So I don't feel like I can relate, if that makes any sense.
Well, here's the interesting thing. I would say turn your thinking around, because that's very common, though, to feel that way, is that we start seeing our wrinkles, and we start seeing our body shape changing, and we're having to work 3 times as hard to keep the same shape. And even in that effort, the shape's still changing, and and we're frustrated and down on our self-image. I suffer from that personally. And we look at the younger ones and we think, oh, we don't have anything to give. But here's the thing. We have wisdom. Mm-hmm. And wisdom is critical to the generations that are following before us, that are coming up behind us, need the gift of our wisdom. Mm-hmm. And they are open. They really are open. But you have to believe in yourself that you have something worth sharing. And my experience is that younger women are open to hearing the wisdom. Mm-hmm. It's us who's not believing we have anything more to offer. Right. So it's shifting that internal thinking into seeing the wisdom. Like if you notice, I notice here in California, there's starting to be more and more women that are going naturally gray. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that in your state?
Yes.
Becoming like a movement. And now young girls are actually dyeing their hair to look gray.
I know.
It's been cool for us, because I've actually been thinking about it, because I get roots after 2 weeks. And I feel like sometimes, man, I'd really love to be courageous, to be that woman at 53 that can be radiantly beautiful with naturally uncolored hair, to be testimony to other women. You can do this. We don't have to keep doing this. But it's entertaining to me to see that movement today is young girls are dyeing their hair gray. Yeah. And so that's another example to me of, like, if we step into the wisdom of who we are and embrace that and then share it, they're open to hearing it.
And that's great. That's why I bring on a variety of women, because I like to hear everybody else's perspective on on aging and belonging. Um, and that's why I decided to kind of open this up with calling it Ladies Live as well. So the younger crowd, and I still I still have some people that are younger than I who have some really valid, good information on techie stuff that, I don't have a clue about anymore. So I think that's needed too. So I'm glad you pointed that out. And that is why I decided to kind of open up the lines a little bit, because we have the wisdom and they have the knowledge of a lot of stuff that we don't have. And we've got some comments here.
Yeah, I want to touch base. I call that synergy. So we can use the techie knowledge that these younger generations are growing up with, and we can share the wisdom of things like compassion and empathy and communicating, looking them in the eyes and getting them in touch with feelings, because they're not getting to exercise that in themselves because everything's digital and their communication interactions are all through email and social media. So we have the wisdom to teach them the benefit and value of connecting in person and making eye contact and showing compassion and empathy and those kinds of critical qualities as well. So
I agree. I agree 100%. And there is more and more discussion about this, especially with the younger crowd. I mean, the ones that were born in, even early 1990s. They had the technology already to start out with. My kids, no. I mean, they didn't have cell phones, and I mean, I could go on, but you understand what I'm saying. So
of the generations who were born in the year 2000, they're the first generation that full 18 years of life has been electronics.
Right.
That they didn't know another way. So that's where I say we come in to show them another way. We can show them the benefits with our wisdom of putting down your phones and playing outside and climbing a tree, as grandmothers, like getting them in touch with those kinds of experiences that otherwise busy two-income working families may not have the time to do.
Well, and they don't, because today's economy is just skyrocketed so much. How can you not? You can't. I remember gas being 50 cents a gallon. I mean, it's crazy.
And that's why I forever will be always so blessed, to my ex-husband for being able to provide that for our families, and we stay home for those 11 years. It is such a great gift that I'll just always be forever grateful for.
It is. And we do have a lot of women that still work from home that are younger than us. And I always give them props for that, because I know that you have to give up certain things in order to have that kind of lifestyle. Mm-hmm. If you don't, not everybody makes a great income. So I do know what they have to sacrifice in order to be there for their kids. And that's a hardship too. I had my granddaughter here the other day and it was raining. I actually wanted to go out there and dance around with her in the rain. She's like, "No, Grandma, no. I don't want to go out in the rain." I was like, "Come on."
So did you go by yourself and go dance?
No. I should have, though.
Then she'll follow you.
You would have thought I was nuts.
And if you in touch with that person inside of you, that feeling. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean. You wanted to, she said no, so you didn't. I would be the one that's an encourager, you to set the example to your young granddaughter. Look at my grandma dances in the rain. How cool is that? Most likely she'll come out.
Yeah.
So next time it rains, go dance in the rain.
Oh, I definitely will. I'll have her make her stand on the porch underneath.
And let her take pictures.
Yeah, and I'll well, she's only 4, so I don't know if that'll
do it. She'll probably know how to do it.
Well, yeah, that's true. She does play her iPad, but she plays all those kids games and stuff like that. So I don't let her have it, and her mom doesn't let her have it for too long. Mm-hmm. But let's see. We've got like a really long one from Cheryl. Says it's important to stress the Importance of co-parenting. Custody battles are defining moments in children's lives that are changing. I was in the battle for most of my children's life, and it was the worst time in our lives. It's been hard to emerge from that. My adult children still feel like they are in the middle and walking on eggshells. Can't we all get along? It blows my mind how, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing the sunny glasses. It blows my mind after all these years, and it's still uncomfortable to be in the same room. Example, my daughter had a baby. My ex made sure I wouldn't be at the hospital at the same time. We can't even share happy moments after making children together. Blows my mind. And that is from Cheryl. I don't want to mess up her name. We'll put it up here.
Cheryl Follow Felice.
Yeah.
Yeah, co-parenting is a real challenge, because if you don't have both people joining with the same commitment, can you remove that comment, because I'm not able to see it?
1 sec.
Then it makes it pretty difficult. And so one of the experiences I recall as a child of divorce that I always appreciated was my dad never spoke a negative word about my mom, ever, ever, ever. Where in contrast, my mom, who was left and was hurt through being left, she was one who was very critical of my dad. And it created a real distance for me with my dad, her telling me adult issues that I shouldn't have known about in trying to estrange me from my dad. And so for years, there was a difficult strain with my relationship with him. And then when I finally emerged a young adult to express to him my thoughts of him, he was able to correct that what I was told was not true, with facts and validation. And from that experience, he taught me, when I went through my own divorce experience, not to do that. And when if you're both not making those commitments, then in the long run, unfortunately, there's nothing that you really can do that's in cooperation together with your ex-spouse. But what you can do is what you do with your time with your kids. And it's important to just I, for myself, always chose the higher road. Not that I was perfect. Sometimes it got hard. But they'll come out remembering. And something else somebody once told me is the one parent that the children give the hardest resistance to, or aren't the most kind to, or just gives you a real hard time and doesn't quite appreciate you, it's really the one they love and appreciate the most. That was a little twisted for me to hear, but I do believe it's true, because they know it's where they can go and it's safe, even though they're acting like jerks. Where other one, where we kind of get seeing the other ones, like the Disneyland person or the good, great person, they don't behave in those same ways around them because they don't feel that connection. So it does make it hard for us as the person who has to shoulder that shit, for lack of a better word. But in the end, they're the one that's feeling most connected to you. So if you turn that energy around and try to disengage from the fists going, against each other, and meet it with love and and also loving yourself, to not be spoken to disrespectfully or to not be taken for granted in ways that you wouldn't have a friend treat you. It starts showing and setting boundaries. And I talk about self-care and boundaries. And when you model that and you demonstrate that to your kids, those are the things within yourself that you can demonstrate that shows love, and on your side of the street, independent of whatever's happening on the other side. I recently did have an experience where I was told by my 17-year-old daughter not to go to her award banquet at the high school. Well, there was no way I was going to miss that. I've been her mother all my life, and I celebrated her achievements, and I'm proud of her for that award that she received. And I still went anyway. But here's what her friend suggested. Just go, be there while she gets it, and then gracefully leave. You don't need to go, stay to the end, meet her at the end, congratulate her, do all that. But just go so you could see it and she will know you were there. Now, she may not like it when she finds out you went anyway, even when she wanted to have the exercise of independence and decide don't be there. And she did. She got upset. But I know 10 years from now and 20 years from now, she'll be glad. But she made that decision because she didn't want me there while her dad was there with his girlfriend. And I bless them with love and light and hope that they are at peace and happiness and joy and love with each other. But I'm still the mom, and I'll always be the mom, and I will always claim that spot as the mom. No matter how much I'm being asked to be put aside, I will not be put aside.
Good
So
for
those
you.
kind of things that we can do. And unfortunately, it's not in a place where they can embrace me cooperatively and co-parent right now, so I can identify with some of what Cheryl's expressing. But it really just comes down to how you're going to choose to carry your own self and model and behave and love yourself and respect yourself and how you handle it.
So I hope that helped, Cheryl. It sounds like a very hard situation to be in. I do know someone who's going through the same thing, and although she tries very hard to be the PC one and doesn't talk about, you know, the father to the daughter, it's totally the other way around at their house. They just mash her to the ground. So,
and that we don't have any control over.
No, but the problem is that the child suffers.
The kids are the ones that suffer because we are the adults with the adult maturity to be able to deal with it, but the children suffer. And unfortunately, that's why you just love them up. You love them up and just continue to reinforce, I love you. I'm sorry that that's what's being said to you. That's not true. And talk positive about the other person. And when they grow up, like I did, I grew up and realized in my 20s, the betrayal of my mom breaking that trust in me hurt me. And then it hurt me to see how it hurt my dad, that I was believing something that wasn't true. Right. And so I ended up spending my 20s reconciling through that. That was the wake that was left after that. So it's just really critical to always take that higher road is what I coach, is take that higher road as hard as it can be.
That, and I believe that too, because I'm watching this unfold. It's been unfolding for almost a year, and it's not easy when you are trying to be the person that gets along, be the person that's PC and that does not want to argue, who will not disrespect the father to the child, and yet everything's getting thrown at her. So, you know, it's really tough.
Yeah, and the sad thing too is you witness as a mother when that happens in the other household, is that the child grows up into teenage years and adult years, and they're still seeking that love and approval.
Right.
From the one that they didn't feel the connection to, that was doing the, negative talk about the other parent. They're still chasing some kind of something, so they end up not feeling whole in themselves. And then they emerge as young adults still dealing with that hole in themselves where they weren't made a priority, or they didn't feel they were loved, or something, you know what I mean? They're in this, they're just caught in the middle, and it is sad. So we will just move off this topic and end in saying to all of you listeners out there, if you can do the ripple effect, it only hurts the children. So please co-parent so that the rules are the same in both and the agreements are the same. It's so much easier for the kids because they're already dealing with so much adjustment in divorce and in this world and the way things are happening with social media. Just love them up and get along and be love.
I couldn't have said it better. I truly believe that. Let's see. Let's go to the comments here. Cheryl says, well said. Thank you. And I don't know if I showed this one, but, oh, that was your sister-in-law, I think. Or your,
I don't have a sister-in-law.
And let's see. Miriam says, so true. Each struggle is a growth opportunity. Love the Lotus comparison. Yeah, that's part of her. That is part of her logo. I love that. It
Yeah,
is
and that
pretty.
logo is something I designed. I had a vision in my head, and the graphic artist who put it together, just got it right on the first shot. But if you notice, it's got the blue ripple effect water.
Mm-hmm.
Hands are emerging out of the water that's holding the heart with the lotus, because it really is, in my mind, that's the transformation of the symbolism of like the lotus, where you come out with your hands and your heart open, and you embrace your heart, and you pull them into yourself, and you love yourself, and when you get to that, you emerge the lotus.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I'm doing this now. That's why I'm opening this platform here to have these conversations uh, for anybody out there listening, because we don't know what other people are going through. You don't know. And if they come along and we help just one or two people, great.
Well, another commitment I have too, Barb, in the work that I do in the love movement I'm creating and designing and sharing with the world is I want to get rid of shame.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shame. If you truly believe the experiences, as hard as they were, you went through, as painful, as difficult, whether it's cancer, abuse, neglect, loss, depression, abortions, whatever, there's no shame.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that you step into the vulnerability of sharing your story, you don't know if you're telling that story to somebody who just learned they had cancer, or they just have been a survivor and is in an abusive relationship,
Mm-hmm.
or has had an abortion themselves. And through this synergy of coming together to share our stories and not feel we have to have these secrets, because that causes dis-ease in the body and will manifest in physical with disease and cancers and stuff, and truly embrace not having shame and regrets in the choices you've made or the experiences you've had, but turn them into the opportunities to share and empower others. It's very healing to your own self. And that forgiveness comes, and you're free to raise that vibrational level so that you start moving in what I call the blissify scale, where you're living in a more blissful state and blissifying your life up out of the muck, so that you're happy and joyful and living and enjoying the life you love living. It's too short. And us, as we're getting older, with age as a factor, we're reminded of that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a choice for us every day.
It is. And shame is really hard to go through. I've been there, done that. The shame is not there anymore. I'm currently looking for people who have experience with post-traumatic stress disorder and a complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which basically is just trauma from early stages of your life, which can affect your whole life, which is worse than post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm currently looking, if anybody's out there that would like to be a guest and help me explain this, because I think there is a lot of people it can help. I'll give you an example. Post-traumatic stress disorder is not as easy as everybody thinks it is to get over. One of my daughters and son's friend who was in the military, he just killed himself Saturday.
Oh.
So suicide rates are very high, and we need to fix this problem when it comes to post-traumatic stress disorder, survivors of abuse, mental, physical, sexual, all that stuff. It's not a one-fix-all, because everybody's different, and everybody deals with it different. Everybody heals with it different. So that was, I'm glad you brought that up, because shame is a huge part of that. Nobody wants to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And if they do talk about it, sometimes they don't really understand the magnitude of the shame, the guilt, the depression that goes along with it, the dissociation that comes with it, all these things. So I just wanted to put that out there because I was thinking of that when you talked about shame. But yeah, and let's see, you order. You order.
And
You
that
order.
is why I focus my business on divorce, separation, and empty nesting, because I'm committed to turning the way we view divorce around. It's treated like a taboo. There's tons of support out there legally and financially through divorce, but there's very little in the way of emotional support. You might find some at churches, but those will be more biblically based type programs. But to find someone that specifically deals with empowering people in divorce, it doesn't have to be a death sentence. It can be an opportunity, and just really turn it around and get people talking about it so that there isn't shame and there isn't that feeling of failure. It takes two to work, two to break. Finger pointing can go, and he said, she said, he cheated on me, she did this, whatever. But at the end, when you strip that away, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Underneath is a lot more deeper issues that cause that marriage to erode and end in divorce. And I want to get us talking about it sooner so we can get the healing process happening so that people can go on to thrive and not just survive and live a fulfilling life and a blissful life and redesign that for themselves, because our society doesn't really talk about it. And it's an epidemic. It's an epidemic, and it's continuing. So it's going to become a real social problem with a lot of single, lonely people in this world.
Yeah, I agree. And I think divorce is right at the top of the list when it comes to trauma as well, because you have a lot going on as far as the kids go. It's hard to separate them from what they used to know because they're kids. They don't understand, especially if they're little. Okay, so if they're little, they don't understand what's going on. I only know I've been married forever and a day, but I only know from watching from watching other people. And what I see is the children is the worst as far as and I wonder, is there trauma? Do you think there could be trauma among the children growing up in this?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely possible. I think it's not reality to think that the kids don't emerge out of it with some issues that they got to work through. But I just met somebody who's young and they're 40 years old and has little kids as young as 3, and I thought to myself, that child's never even going to have a memory of their family being a family. And it just breaks my heart.
Right.
And there's a lot of bitterness and fighting going on by one of the other spouse, and the little kids are being put in the middle, and it's just crushing them. And there's nothing you can do to stop it because she's just pissed off and hurt. And
yeah,
I'm like, let me talk to her, please, because in the end, it's just gonna critically damage those children. And we are starting to see now that the younger generations are getting divorced younger with little kids and babies now too. So there's another challenge that you have.
Right.
And
right.
Statistically, second and third time marriages fail even greater than first. So it's not a positive path of thinking, the blended Brady Bunch and the success rate at that is much lower than a first marriage. So challenging.
So, what do you think that is happening that's causing so much of this divorce and issues going on? Years ago, it really wasn't, you stayed with your partner. I have a lady who lost her husband next door, and they were together for, oh God, I don't know how. She's 80, so they've been together. God, I can't even remember. I think it's like 60, 70 years. So
yeah. I'm not sure, I can only speculate. But what I think is it's generationally different. That generation that stayed married no matter what and celebrated 60 years, it's just not the mindset that we're seeing today. And I think people are when they're getting married a little older, but they're under so much pressure with the 2 income families. On top of that's added pressure. And I think if you look at the epidemic of health conditions and prescriptions, drugs and addictions are starting to elevate with prescription drug addictions and other drug, narcotics and alcohol. Now you've added addictions and those kinds of things into the partnership as a coping mechanism for the stress that two-income families now have to deal with. Then you add the pressures of raising children and the cost, the rising standard of living cost. It continues to rise, but incomes aren't going up. Right. It's just adding so much pressure that it's just like combusting. And then when you add into, we don't get taught communication skills.
Yes.
We don't get taught these life skills. And then if you add pressures like there aren't other family members that can help support, like in other generations kind of took a community to raise each other. In my day, I can remember playing hide and go seek on a hot summer night till midnight, and all 5 houses, Mr. Scott and Joe Smith across the street and Miss so-and-so, they were all watching us. They let the other parent know. So it was a community. Now we don't even know our neighbors next door to us. No. We don't even say hello. And then you introduce social media interactions, and when all communication's getting narrowed down into typing with our fingers, not looking in our eyes, and dealing with the emotions that come through nonverbal communication and verbal communication and the way we say things or don't say things, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Well, it isn't, because messenger, phone, text, or whatever, even on Facebook, everything doesn't come out properly when you're typing it. Because you don't see anybody's expressions, you don't see their body language, you don't see their eyes, and sometimes things can go bad, as you see. You've seen that there's all these fights breaking out and people getting hurt. And
yeah, and I think with the internet too, we can get caught up in the grass is greener syndrome. And what people don't understand is every time you leave a relationship, if you don't learn how to cure the skills, it's kind of like somebody that eats and gets obese and they go have the gastric bypass surgery. And oftentimes you'll see them over the years, they'll gain the weight back. Because if you don't treat why you eat that caused that, for emotional reasons, then the physical will just fall back into place because it didn't treat the issue. It was more of a Band-Aid. That's just one example. So the same holds true with marriages. If you end a relationship because you think, I'll just go start over, it's the other person, it's not me.
Right.
I'll just go start a new one. The grass is greener over here, and you get over here, you carried that pattern with you. And that pattern's just going to keep showing up and showing up and showing up, relationship after relationship after relationship. If we don't work on dealing with ourselves and taking a real hard look in the mirror.
So would you recommend, let's say, somebody in the trenches right now, considering divorce, they're not getting along, there's constant fighting, would you suggest them to have a life coach? Love style.
Absolutely. In my view, there's a real difference between there's a therapist and a coach. I call myself the love and lifestyle coach, because what I want to coach you into is deeper love for yourself. And when you get into deeper love with yourself, you can then examine all the people you have in your life to see if it's in alignment with loving yourself. And if not, you get to make changes. Now, that doesn't mean change out of the relationships. It might mean changing the way you show up in those relationships, which could create a change from the others that then creates a new dance. That is what has needed to happen. Because if we want to see change, we need to be the change. And oftentimes, what we're creating in our relationship is just a reflection back to ourselves. That if we can work on changing who we want to be in that relationship and show up our best self and show up, giving that which we're not getting, it might shift that other person and you can find yourself deeply back in love again, right? So with the therapist, I always often say, for me, if you're really stuck in that grief-stricken place of depression and you cannot get out of bed and you don't want to face life, and you're really struggling with some of that hardships, heavy stuff, that is better suited for somebody, I think, in the trained psychology field of therapy who can help get you at least out of the mud, right?
Right.
I'm the person that steps in when you're ready to really make changes and move forward. And you're in that, you know what I mean, ready to just say, I'm tired of feeling this way. I know there's something more out there for me, and I'm ready to do what it takes and take action steps. Because I'm going to challenge you and also give you things so you have fun. Because I want to get you in the feeling space of experiencing how it feels to feel good inside you and get in touch with that. So I believe strongly that when people are having those challenges, get with a coach that's really positive, uplifting, encouraging, fun, and that would be someone like me. I was just at a networking event last week, and I was just introducing myself, and a gal came up to me and said, I think you can help my boyfriend. I said, oh yeah, tell me more about that. And we start talking, and as I asked her questions about herself, she was able to see, well, maybe she might contribute in some of this, and it's not all the boyfriend. So it became this, we started talking and working, and now I'm going to be working with the couple, and they are not in separation, divorce, or empty nesting. They're living together and recognizing that they want to grow, and they're committed to each other. And she's looking to hopefully get married, and there's a fear of being married in there. So it's marrying up that too. And I'm working with them, and I feel so delighted that I'm able to intervene at a time that can really help them get to a strong place together when they step forward into that, building that and designing that life they want for each other, with each other.
And I think that's a great service you offer, because this can avoid all of the messy stuff that could come, if they're not recognizing what's going on, or they're not asking for help. And I think even if it's one person that recognizes it, and they know how to love themselves, and they know how to say, okay, wait a minute, I'm going to be the bigger person here, and I'm taking these steps with Terri, and I am going to learn how to love myself, and hopefully the rest will follow. So even if it's just one person, I men, for some reason, I'm not saying all men, but most men, when you mention therapy, are like, oh no, yeah, But I think if they had another outlet such as yourself, I think they may be open to something like that. And I think normally the women have to do it first.
Well, we are kind of that lead. We are that lead. We set the tone, and we set the energy, right?
Right.
And that's why I call myself a love and lifestyle coach, because I am committed to creating love. Everything boils down to love, in my view. Everything we struggle with, everything we experience, and everything we need to heal, or we need to forgive, or we need to go make amends, it's all comes down to love, choosing love. And then lifestyle. It's my commitment to help people create a life where they're thriving and they feel vitality, not exist paycheck to paycheck and just survive. We weren't designed for that. We're designed to feel joy and to feel happy. In fact, I even partnered with the Happy Neighborhood Project, where this gentleman's creating a happy movement in the global world, and creating a happy neighborhood movement for businesses. And I joined in that movement. I'm like, well, between Chief Happy Officer and Chief Love Officer, with your happy movement and my love movement, we can make miracles happen. So
it's awesome.
Yeah, I'll be posting more about that on my website. But it's just really setting that mindful intention, and love and lifestyle just seems to fit best for me, because it's hard to capture me it's hard to capture me because there's a lot that I do, and a lot that I offer, and a lot that I can help provide. So I'm really blessed to be able to work with this couple who I really am so impressed that, one was able to recognize, hey, I think you could help us, and they partnered together, and they're coming together, and it's really awesome to see, and they're just living together. So there's help out there for all of us. And if you come to me before you're in separation and divorce, I can help you so you don't get there. And that's our goal. we need to lower this divorce rate and keep families together for the sake of love and children. And
And I think that's great that you can collaborate with others, because sorry, I keep trying to put there we go. Lucifyyourlife.com, because for some reason my agenda is not working. I think collaboration also too is phenomenal, because you can spread it out. You know, you could bring more people in, and that is always needed, because you can get out there and touch so many more people.
Absolutely. So and there's you know, energy and synergy in numbers. We all have something to learn from each other, and we all have something to teach if you're open to it. And there's plenty of abundance out there for everybody. So those who approach business or sharing their gifts and skills, knowledge and ability with a competitive edge, let it go. Because when you step out of the fear and trust all is well, you will know that there's a plenty of abundance for everyone out there. And if you see yourself that way, already abundant, and it's abundantly flowing to you, for you, you know what I mean? And you're working collaboratively with people, that energy itself is going to create greater abundance and prosperity. And your effect to affect positive change in the world is going to ripple out so much more effectively than when you're in that fear and lack and feeling the competitive edge. And I don't want to share what I know because that person's competition with me. It's right. Together and look at how you can come together to help support one another, to grow each other in their missions and their platforms that they're committed to and passionate about.
Yes, and that's why I've done this show, and I was pleasantly surprised, as you know, that many people showed up on my forum or on the private page that we have, the group.
And that's the principle I'm just talking about. You put out a ripple, and you got a wave, right? Yeah.
I was totally surprised, because I wasn't really sure where I was going with this. I had a thought, I had hope that it was going to explode into something big for helping other people. And yeah, I put it out there, and boom, you see the group. It's amazing.
And it's all just a reminder too, Barb, how it's helping you, because you shared your story about the gentleman or the person that committed suicide last Saturday, and your passion about PTSD and some of the things you're experiencing within your own family. And the more you share those personal stories with us, the more it's helping many, many other lives that may be identifying or experiencing or has seen or witnessed those same kinds of feelings or experiences. And through that, it's also healing you as you talk about them and bring them to the surface. So I really, really appreciate and commend you for the beautiful thing that you're creating here. And it's such a privilege for me to be here. And I just am so grateful.
You're welcome. And I'm so glad that you came on. You are a wealth of knowledge and just positivity. I mean, you just have that positive energy about you, and your experience and your wisdom brings you into who you are today. I just wanted to tell you that. And I think that's needed so much out here in the world in the internet, especially. I'm hoping Tish is one of our yeah, she is one of she goes, and I'm honored you're here, Tish, because she's like one of the Be-Livers. She hops on everybody's. She says hashtags waves and ripples.
Yeah, I see that on the screen. Thank you, Tish.
Thank you, Tish.
Let's create a tsunami.
Yeah.
Of love.
Yes. But I think you're awesome, and I am so happy I had you on. And
because you are my first Facebook Live. So what a great place for me to start.
I'm happy. I'm happy, and it was easy, right?
It was. Thank you so much for making it feel so easy.
Okay, is there any final thoughts that you'd like to tell our audience, like how they can contact you? I put your website up there. If you want to give them maybe your fan page and your email, I mean, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, so I would love to hear from you, even just your feedback, because I'm really looking to grow and be my best self. So I honor and appreciate the time you've taken here today, as I know that you have lots of choice in where you give the gift of your time away. So I'm so grateful to you. And if you could just contact me, whether through my email at love@blissifyyourlife.com, or you can connect with me through Facebook. You'll find me as Terri Baker Rose there, and send me something in Messenger. My website, as you see, she's put the link up, is blissifyyourlife.com. Terri Rose, your love and lifestyle coach. And I do offer free 30-minute consultations. So take advantage of that. You can reach out to me and we can get you scheduled for one of those. I would love to use that as an opportunity to see how I can help you, or if you have any referrals of somebody that I can help. And just keep being your beautiful self out there and choose love. Always choose love and the higher road, and share your smile, and it makes the world a better place. And know that you are beautiful and amazing just the way you are.
Thank you. That is wonderful. Okay, anybody else have questions for her before we go? Well, okay, we can always come back and answer them if they come by. Please, if you're on the replay, if you're watching the replay right now, the live is almost done. We are at the top of the hour, but please leave a message and let us know what you think of the show, and share if you'd like to. Yeah, connect with my friend here. And if you're, need some empowering, I suggest this lady. She has lots of wisdom and experience, because if you've been there, you know, and there's just no other way around it. So I thank you for coming. All righty, everybody. So I guess that's the end of our show today, and I will be talking with you later. Okay?
Thank you so much, Barb.
Thank you. You have a good day.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for coming.